The question on that day was, how dare he? Didn't he know that the mediator had already told us that my daughter was not ready for a second night away from me this soon? Who did he think he was? I was her mother. I had not only raised her in my womb for 9 months, I had been breastfeeding her every single day of her 18-month-old life. And what kind of male privilege made him think he could just override me and the mediator? He told me, well, if you want her, you have to come down and get her. I said, oh, I'll do him one better. I called the police and said, please meet me at his house. And when I got there, they were already there. And he was calmly talking to them, telling him, I am her father, and she is completely safe with me here. I heard her crying. My breast milk started to come in. I was desperate and ready for war. I told them in no uncertain terms, the law is on my side. It has already been ruled that she can stay one night, not two. And they asked me, well, miss, do you have a court order or something that says that in writing? And my fear started to flame. I got angry, I raised my voice, and they said, ma'am, can you step outside? And when I got outside, they told me, we're sorry, but there's nothing that we can do. And I looked up in the window, and I saw my baby standing there crying for me. And it was the absolute worst sight I have ever seen in my whole life. I sobbed, and I went back to my car, and I sat there thinking, what kind of monster would do this to his own child? But it was years later that I asked myself a different question. What kind of woman would call the police on a black man because he wanted a second night with his daughter?
All right.
Was it him that had caused her the pain, or was it me because I had showed up at his house to take her? Was she really gonna be scarred for life because she spent the weekend with a man who had changed her diapers and rocked her to sleep, and every day that we were together showed up as a loving presence in her life? See, I hated these questions because these were the questions that said, maybe I was part of the problem. I didn't like that idea. I wanted the easy questions, the ones that made an enemy, made me a victim, kept us on the drama triangle. But over time, I learned to appreciate his love for her. And it helped us develop a peace, a mutual respect, and a bond that said we were family because we loved her. And it was possible for us to love one another, even as we maintained our distance. Fast forward 10 years, and I found myself as an activist organizing after the murder of Oscar Grant III in Oakland, California, who was killed face down in front of a group of witnesses by the BART transit police. And those witnesses videotaped that murder and sparked a local and national movement. I was one of the lead organizers, and I called for the imprisonment of every police officer involved. And we were able to secure one of the first murder charges on an on-duty police officer. Now, many of you have heard that story, but you probably have not heard the story of Lavelle Mixon, because 6 months after Oscar Grant was killed, Lavelle Mixon killed 4 police officers in Oakland. And there were some in the activist community who said they had it coming. After years of terrorizing our community, this is the chickens coming home to roost. I was not one of those people, but I did get a phone call from one that said, would you be willing to help us organize a protest at the funeral of the police officers? Because you see, the governor didn't come to Oscar Grant's funeral, but he is coming to their funeral. And I looked at the phone and I said, what would make this person think that I would organize a protest at the funeral of a man in front of his family? And a voice said to me, what would make them think that? See, some of y'all know I have been a ball of fury. Scorching the earth of anything blue and anybody who decided that they would stand with this morally corrupt and bankrupt system that has been murdering our children, our husbands, our wives, our non-gender, non-binary trans folk for generations. But I had a question, a different question. Why was I doing this? What was my actual goal? You see, my friend Van Jones likes to say, Martin Luther King had a dream, not a complaint. You see, he wasn't just trying to get from the back of the bus. He had a vision of black children and white children holding hands, a thing that was impossible in his time. Like Harriet Tubman, who took people to a freedom she had never seen. Can you imagine that? Hey, come on, we gonna go to the north. Harriet, have you ever been there? No. Are the dogs and the sheriff, let's be clear and talk about how long police have been hunting us, right? Are they gonna come after us? Yes. Well, what if I turn around? I got a shotgun for your back. So she took people to a freedom that she had never been to. That is a vision. I decided I wanted a different come from. And I went to ministerial school so I could practice spiritual activism, which I define as working for justice and still praying for peace. Fast forward another 10 years, and I was asked to be on our local public radio station to talk about 1 year after Charlottesville. Where were we? And I was there with another a person from the media who was one of the panelists and asked me, well, what can we be doing in the media to do better on these topics? And I found the courage to say a different question. Where are the stories of transformation? Who is talking to us about love and forgiveness? Because on that fateful day that ended in the murder of Heather Heyer, a different story was also happening. There were white supremacists who had gathered there and a woman named Dia Khan who was making a documentary about them. And one of her subjects, Ken Parker, got heat stroke. And Dia decided to help him when he nearly passed out in front of them. And as her documentary went forward, he said, I was surprised that even as I was spewing hate, she was always so respectful and nice to my fiance and I. So he had this idea that maybe there was something different for him. And 1 year after Charlottesville, this former Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan met a black minister who he allowed to baptize him in All Saints Holiness Church in Jacksonville, Florida. In this black church, this white man who had been a member of the Ku Klux Klan and said that wasn't enough and became a Nazi, joined a black church. Now see, these are the stories that we don't tell. These are the stories that can liberate us from a climate of fear that is promoted every single day by our television.
You better go.
See, because here's the part we don't want to talk about. 8 years before Trump, we were gloating.
Yes.
Yeah, Time's up, right? We were telling white folks, oh, it's over for you. We're about to be the majority. And what did we want? We wanted them to be afraid. And guess what? It worked. And so now we have a reality TV president, a fear-mongering public, and we're constantly trying to figure out how can we strengthen ourselves as activists and wall up our family for some pretend kind of safety. But let me tell you, there is nothing that's coming to save us but us.
Come on.
And so I'm going to ask you to start asking a different question. To complicate the narrative, as I tell my students in solidarity and racial justice, to come up with a new idea, to ask the question, why am I doing this? What is it that I am trying to create? What difference will it make? Where am I coming from? And to try on love as an answer. To give ourselves more love for the pain that we are carrying that don't have nothing to do with what's going on in the society or what's going on in our relationship. It's what's been going on inside of us. To connect ourselves to a faith that has always helped us as a people get over, right? My friend Susan Taylor likes to say, this is not the rough side of the mountain. We have been through way more than this and come through as strong as we are. And so here's an opportunity. When it gets bad, when you feel hopeless, when it seems that there is nothing we can do to get out of our personal, social, community, church, societal situation, ask a different question and let love be the answer.